Tell me your name.
I have had many names.
The face of true evil is revealed. A journey begins. A king departs. And powerful rings are forged.
I'm Dominic Patten.
And I'm Anthony D'Alessandro.
Welcome to the supersized finale of Deadline's Inside the Ring, The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power After Show.
The Season 1 finale of Amazon Prime Video's adaptation of J.R.R. Tolkien's work has dropped, and today we go behind the scenes with exclusive footage and sit-downs with the showrunners and executive producers on how they got here, the destiny of the stranger, and what and who is coming for Season 2.
Sauron himself joins us too, with actor Charlie Vickers delivering the details on the Dark Lord, his betrayals, and schemes for revenge. From all across Middle-earth, you don't want to miss this.
There it is.
Are you sure?
There's a sweet smell on the air this way. When in doubt, Eleanor Brandyfoot. Always follow your nose.
Let's start with the big reveals. The stranger is a wizard who uses smell to find his path. Is he Gandalf?
The stranger's journey and Nori's journey with him is one of discovery, and for him it's one of self-discovery. He has discovered some things. The stars he's looking for are far to the east in Rune, where the stars are strange. He has learned that he is ostensibly an Istar, which means wizard, and he's learned something else from the mystics, we call them. They say he is not Sauron, he is the other, which sort of implies that potentially his destiny is entwined in some way with Sauron's. But that's all he knows at this point, and he's going to have to go on another journey to learn more, and maybe a name or his name becomes a part of that journey. But at this time, we only know what he knows.
So what awaits him in Nori, and will Nori see Poppy again?
One of the goals from the very beginning for us here was to go to uncharted, unseen corners of the Tolkienian map. Rune is a huge and tantalizing continent that readers and audiences have never been to, and the idea of a wizard and a halfling seemed to us like a really exciting and enticing new leg of the journey. As far as Poppy's concerned, I would just say Megan Richards and Mark Hella have an undeniable delight and chemistry and a friendship that those characters have built and that feels so authentic, and we would be fools not to want to take advantage of it again somewhere down the road.
There is no king of the Southlands. The line was broken. The last man to bear your crest died over 1,000 years ago. He had no heir.
I told you I found this on a dead man.
So let's talk about another huge reveal. Halbrand as Sauron. Why did you guys decide to go with that? And did you consider other alternatives? Were there other characters, or maybe characters we didn't even know about, who could have been Sauron?
From the beginning, we wanted to build a relationship between Sauron and Galadriel. There was a text that we found in the writer's room that we found to be really, really fascinating from the Mirror of Galadriel, in which she says, I perceive the Dark Lord and know his mind, or at least all of his mind that concerns the elves. And ever does he grope after me and seek to know my mind, but still the door is shut. We thought that spoke or hinted of, the possibility of some kind of a relationship between Sauron and Galadriel. Very early on, we said, well, what would it be like to, explore this? We didn't want it to be just like he's nakedly Sauron from the beginning, because it feels like it'd be hard to have any kind of relationship there, because she would instantly just reject any association with him. But what if he sort of crept up on her unawares and presented himself in a form that fed into a goal of hers, as he does with Halbrand? And then the idea of a Tolkienian chance meeting, as he called them, an encounter on the raft, felt like it could be a delicious way to start off that storyline. We thought of ways that there are other characters you might think were Sauron. The stranger was certainly always going to be someone who we knew people would be thinking about, given his powers. And, there were other players on the board that we thought people might be considering as well, and we laced the storytelling to make it hopefully intricate and satisfying, and that people would be looking at those different characters and having questions about them. But really, Galadriel and Halbrand was the intention really all along.
So Charlie, we have to ask you right away, how did you find out that your character was Sauron?
We filmed the first 2 episodes, then went on hiatus, and then with maybe 2 months to go of the hiatus, before starting episode 3, before I started, the showrunners kind of said, we want you to come in. We want to have a meeting with you. And they took me into the set that Galadriel discovers in the first episode in the Northern Waste, you know, with the orcs through the walls and Sauron's sigil on the forge. They took me in there and they said, this is your world. You're playing Sauron.
Galadriel, look at me. You know who I am. I am your friend.
Talk about that emotional scene with Morfydd in the finale, and he tries to manipulate Galadriel into joining him in Mordor.
It's a scene where I think you finally see his true intentions, and it has a lot of stuff in the scene. He talks to her about healing Middle-earth, and that comes back to a lot of what Tolkien said about Sauron, in that he, at the beginning of the Second Age, he'd been brought low and he lingered in Middle-earth, and his power then very slowly re-emerged. So we see him basically pitching his vision, and I think he wholeheartedly believes that he's doing good. He wants to rehabilitate and rid Middle-earth of all the wasteful friction because he's obsessed with order, and I think he genuinely believes that if Galadriel joins him, that'll help him affect his goals. I think they have a cosmic connection, but I don't think it's necessarily in his mind a king and a queen, like husband and wife kind of situation. I think it's more, I can use you to get what I want and affect my designs faster. Because ultimately, I think he would have ended up ruling by himself, whether she joined him or not. And when she says no on the raft, it angers him, but it's not the end of the world for him.
Halbrand almost kills Galadriel down at the stream.
Talk about portraying that transition into evil.
Yeah, it was really fun. I can really remember that day that Mordvith and I filmed the scene down by the river, and that was the first time I really got to experience that switch into, you know, shedding the cloak of Halbrand, and the line that he says, "I've been awake since the breaking of the first silence." That was a really profound moment for me, because it was like, it really gave me perspective on just how long this character had been alive and the things he had seen, and allowing that to settle felt to me completely different from Halbrand. And it was like any pretense, any guardedness or shield that he had put up was gone. And below is someone with good intentions, but to the viewer, probably quite dark intentions, to rule and to dominate. And for me as an actor, I mean, it's just an absolute thrill to play it. And I'm fully nerding out, you know, being able to talk about it all for the first time.
So there are obvious similarities, like Halbrand and Sauron are skilled smiths. What are some of the more subtle clues about Halbrand's true identity that you as an actor dropped along the way during the season that we may have missed?
It's interesting with Halbrand because you only see him through the lens of other characters. You rarely see him alone. In fact, I think you only see him alone once, when he's sitting with his pouch. And even then, you see him in conflict. And that's interesting because when you look at that scene and you think, well, he's conflicted, he's just by himself, he's not showing this to anyone. You could argue that, well, perhaps he is genuinely repentant. But I remember making that scene and thinking, in Middle-earth, there is always someone watching, and the gods are watching, and he fears the gods. He's just, he has had to kneel at the feet of Eonwe and say sorry. He doesn't know that they're not going to send something and to hurt him or defeat him. So I think for me, as I was performing it, it was about accentuating the subtle differences, not being too obvious with either manipulation or overt conflict. Like, I really want to be a good man. I think I tried to walk the line. And as well as that, the showrunners put in, and the writers put in some really cool little hints along the way. Lines like to Galadriel, "I'm sorry about your brother." Or his second line on the raft is, "Looks can be deceiving." I know I had some friends text me as soon as that as soon as I said that line saying you're Sauron, and I couldn't tell them.
Are we going to see more of his backstory, before he got on the raft? And find out where he was headed?
JD mentioned earlier, part of the hopefully the delight is the notion of a chance meeting. For Galadriel on the hunt for evil, she's been pushed into an early retirement to reject that gift. Bumping into him the way she does is about the worst possible thing that could happen to her. And potentially, if you're meeting him in a low point, the best possible thing that could happen to him, because he just won the golden ticket. I think we're very interested in understanding more about, what makes Sauron tick. To what extent is he a master manipulator and a planner? And to what extent is he an opportunist?
I'm excited to see and answer the questions as to why he was on the raft. But I think in that exact moment, he feels this cosmic connection to this person, and he spent so many years alone and meeting people that are not like him, that when he meets someone with extreme, incredible power, you get a thrill, you get a rush, and you say, I want to be with this person. So she's survival, but also she can open doors. She can get him in the right rooms. She knows people, and I think he sees an opportunity to exploit that.
Thank you, Galadriel,
For bringing you here.
for saving my life.
There's such an evolution of Halbrand, Sauron, and Galadriel's relationship. They saved each other's lives in season 1, but now they're literally hardened foes. How are we going to see that relationship develop in season 2?
I think it'll be really exciting. We only have the first few scripts of the second season, so I don't really know exactly where it's going to go. But I certainly hope that they meet again, and it sets up this great relationship that would hopefully be able to endure over 5 seasons. And they can, when they do meet, they have this really rich history. But I imagine that when they see each other, it's going to be frosty. It's going to be a icy relationship.
Stop! We need him alive.
Why did Halbrand want to kill Adar?
I think we want to be careful about giving up the ghost in a way. I think with a lot of these things, we feel like it's all there. But I would say, just as a viewer, I would think about the story that Adar tells Galadriel. He claims to have killed Sauron. And we know from Tolkien that Sauron is defeated and returns in another form several times throughout the centuries.
They have a rich history of which we will see more in the future. There is a lot of hatred and mixed feelings there between them. And I think that's an example of Sauron within Halbrand being a bad guy, and his ruthless streak of just like, if I don't like someone or I have a problem, I'm going to end you. And Galadriel saves Adar in that situation.
Since we have the 3 rings, we should be able to see Kierden in season 2, correct? What other new characters can you tease next season?
Kierden will be a part of the adventure moving forward in season 2. We've cast a wonderful actor to play him that we will announce it at some future date. But part of the fun of telling a story in Middle-earth is that there's all these wonderful canon characters that you've met, season 1, and then there are additional canon characters that we will get to in future seasons. And if you know the lore, anybody is fair game who might have been a part of the world at this time.
Theo was another character who had a dark side. Does he have a lore identity that'll be revealed? Like, is he a Black Rider or a Witch King?
It would be no fun if we were to answer something like that, but the Witch King is out there. There are 9 Black Riders, Nazgul, of which the Witch King was one. There's also, the ghosts under the mountain. There are all kinds of destinies in Middle-earth, and Theo's is yet to be written. We'll have to see where he ends up.
If the old ways of our people are not soon restored, our island will fall.
What will Arion do with the king's final appeal for his people to go back to the old ways?
It's been fairly clear that, she and her family are in slightly different places in terms of how they feel about the elves and about the faithful. And one thing we've been interested in exploring in Numenor is the different facets of Numenorian society, that there are obviously kingsmen and there are faithful. And when those are just abstract ideas and politics, there's a level of interest that can generate. But we feel like really to help dramatize that story, you want to personalize it, and you want to make it something that Eärien and Isildur and Elendil are all on different journeys in terms of their relationships to Numenorean society, and those frictions we hope will play out in a way that is engaging to audiences. So we're leaving you intentionally on a cliffhanger and setting some plates in motion for some things we'll pick up in season 2.
Just as a viewer, speculating based on, as you said, the king gave her a plea to, we should go back to the old ways. And then she found the Palantir. There's a couple paths she could take, right? She could heed his warning. She could touch the Palantir and potentially see the vision that speaks to the warning. Or if her politics led her to use that information in a different way, it might lead to a very different destiny. And you'll have to see where her journey goes next to find out.
What I want to ask is pick up on what JD said about the politics of Numenor. And clearly now, with the passing of the old king here in the finale, and Pharazôn standing there and recognizing that there's a shift happening in his society, and the Queen Regent, now the Queen, has returned blind, it feels like this relationship that has been a power struggle underneath the surface between these two cousins is about to erupt, sort of like a certain volcano.
Very much so, yes. We are sort of setting up a thread where Muriel is coming back. She went on a limb and made a difficult decision that she was going to send a limited number of Numenoreans to Middle-earth to help endangered Southlanders. And as you can say, that literally blew up in her face. So she's coming back both physically wounded and potentially politically wounded as well. We will see what the fallout of her decision has been on her reign. And also on the divisions within Numenorean society writ large.
From shadow you came. To shadow I bid you return.
He is not Sauron. He is the other. The Star.
So the mystics are so skilled and powerful. How did they get it so wrong? I mean, confusing Sauron with a wizard. Are they gone forever?
The lands to the east in Rhûn are vast and mysterious. There are rumors in the lore that there are magic cults out there, and that there are other wizards who go there, that you do not meet in the Lord of the Rings books. These are questions and opportunities in the lore that we're interested in exploring. I think there are different kinds of magic in Tolkien. We know that the wizards, they have different levels of power. Magic can be used for good or evil, but clearly the stranger, even in his young form, is more powerful than they. And where they came from and what world they are a part of is something that we really look forward to opening up in future seasons.
We get that there's a link between Sauron and between the arrival of the stranger. So whatever piece of that sign and prophecy the mystics had, they were betting on the link being that the stranger actually was Sauron. But clearly they only had part of the story, and they found out the rest of it when they went there in person.
For you, what was the most challenging to direct?
I think any scene that involves scale, as in making the actors seem like they're different sizes, is always going to be challenging. Typically, the people that needed to be the smallest creatures, the half-feet, were the tallest actors. I think Lenny Henry's 6'4". So that was always a challenge. We had to use motion control rigs to match the camera movement to be able to shrink or enlarge certain characters, which meant sometimes we'd be filming every shot 4 or 5 times. The most challenging sequence was definitely episode 8 in the Greenwood, when the Harfords come to rescue the stranger and ultimately square off against the Mystics, because we had to have 2 sets, one that was the right scale for our human characters, and then we have to have the set that was 1.5 times larger for the Harfoot characters to make it look as if it was smaller. So we would shoot with scale doubles on the normal size set, and then we'd recreate it on the bigger set. So at various times we had different departments, different crews lining up the same shot with different sized versions of actors. So it was a real sort of head puzzle.
Sorry, good lady. I'm afraid I'm about to go a-wandering off trail.
One of the things we saw here in the finale was the death of Sir Lenny Henry and his character. One of the elements that we saw a lot in this season is a vast diversity of casting across all the realms. Going forward, you guys, that seems like something that you guys are very strongly committed to.
Middle-earth is vast, and diverse place, and we want to continue to honor that.
Yeah, for us, it's all about finding the people who feel right for the role.
You're not a Perrin. You're good.
The symbolism of the apple, especially in the finale, but throughout, give us a sense about that, because clearly, for many of us, we lean towards a biblical interpretation. But what's going on with that apple?
So apples have a lot of mythological resonances in cultures really across the world. There's, obviously a biblical idea, and it's interestingly enough, it's commonly associated with the tree of knowledge of good and evil. But for a long time, in many languages, the word apple actually could kind of mean any fruit. But in this story, you can look at it as, one, a symbol of their friendship, in that this grove has been something that the Harfoots been so excited to get to. They obviously, food is dear and scarce for them, and they've been excited to get there, and there's not the food that they're hoping for when they get there. And the fact that Nori would still give the stranger one of the only good apples left is an obvious token of friendship. But at the same time, I think you can also look at it, taking a fruit in a garden setting is something that portends kind of a loss of innocence, a leaving of Eden, and heading into the difficult world. And the stranger has effectively gone through a birth and has been with the Harfoots, which have helped to nourish him and take care of him. And it's been a period of innocence for him. And you could say he is now leaving that behind and going out into the world. But, I think as he holds on to the apple, I think friendship, again, is an important thing. As he considers eating it, he hears Nori's voice in his head and he thinks about her. And he's clearly going to be very hungry. He's been traveling a long time at that point. But rather than eat the apple, he holds on to the apple as, holding on to the friendship that he has with Nori as something that's important to him.
Oh. Self-discipline, Master Elf.
I think that'll bring you success.
Did in our contest. Did it?
When JD talks about friendship, one of the most powerful ones that we saw over the first season was the friendship between Elrond and Durin. Why do you think that friendship resonated so much with fans, and what can we expect, if anything, of it going forward?
I love that friendship too. They're such fantastic characters, and Rob and Owen are such fantastic actors. I just love the nuance in their performances. They're both very fine dramatic actors, but also have incredible comic timing and just an incredible range. And seeing them do their thing is so satisfying. Not to mention they get to be, different sizes and the illusion of it all. And I think, it resonates with people because everybody has a friendship like that means something to them, and somebody who kind of sees them and appreciates them for who they are, and also pushes them and, ribs them a little in the way that somebody who knows you really well can do. And their friendship, this first season, there's a discussion about when friendship and obligation come into conflict, and it's difficult to follow the path of what is right. And I think this friendship will find there are challenges ahead, and both characters will have to find the right path.
You guys are in production right now. How are things going working on season 2?
We have a team of collaborators that we really believe in and are each wonderful at their given craft. We have a story we're really excited about telling. There are some things to come in Legendarium. We've been pretty open with sort of where the show is going in terms of the Forging of the Rings of Power, the Rise of Sauron, the Fall of Numenor, the Last Alliance. We're going to be getting into some of that stuff in a real way, season 2, that I think is going to be really satisfying for fans who have been excited to see it brought to the screen. As writers, I can say it's also fun in that, we have spent a season getting to know these characters and seeing them embodied by our wonderful cast. And now, as we're writing, we have their voices in our head in a unique way that has grown from season 1. And so, being able to write and already hear them saying the lines as we're creating is just a delight. We've just been shooting for a little while now, but already it's delightful to be back on set and start to see the dailies come in.
Yeah, I think lots of exciting things are planned for season 2. I've been incredibly impressed with the scripts as they're coming in. And I can see seeds being planted for what I think will be future storytelling. And it's a wonderful thing to be in season 2 and to have a world that is partially known to people and be able to draw on the relationships that have already been formed in season 1 and some of the world building that's been done. So it's been really satisfying to be deeply into it, and I think we'll only get richer as we go.
One of the things that I think is baked into the DNA of Lord of the Rings on screen is ending your experience with an amazing song. Every one of those Peter Jackson films did it. I remember the feeling of sitting in the theater and hearing these ethereal voices come over the credits, and it completed the journey for me. So I felt very strongly that in order to really tell a Lord of the Rings story in a visual form, that we must end it with a vocal song. I always wanted to set the ring poem. It's so great. It's so musical. The meter, the way that it flows, even when you say it, when you hear it said in the films, you get chills. So in my non-existent downtime while I was doing the scenes and making the deadline for each episode, I was always chiseling away at a vocal song. I came up with an arrangement of the ring poem and worked with Amazon to find an artist that we wanted to have sing it. And I was so thrilled that at the end of this experience, when we smashed to black at the end of episode 8, that audiences are gonna hear Fiona Apple sing the ring poem. Fans will have actually heard it several times. You hear it first over the main title card in episode 1. You hear it when Celebrimbor appears in episode 1. You hear it in the main on ends in episode 1. So at the end of episode 1, you hear Sandy Cameron playing a violin solo. To me, it feels like there's supposed to be words on this melody. It's not a melody like any other I wrote. Ba da 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 da. 3 rings for the Elven Kings. It's just so cool. And truly, in the last 7 minutes of the season, there's no dialogue, and it's essentially a symphonic variation building up louder and louder on this melody. But it's never quite had its moment. And I actually imagine that eagle-eared fans will be suspicious that something's up with this tune. Something's up, and then after that incredible closing shot, Fiona's voice comes in and answers the mystery of what this melody is. It's the ring poem. And she gives this incredible, iconic performance. I mean, she's truly one of the great voices of her generation. It was incredible to work with her. And I think the thing that's most exciting about her singing the ring poem is that the ring poem it's sort of a flex from Sauron himself. It's him imposing his will on Middle-earth itself. It shouldn't be beautiful. It should be powerful and menacing and mysterious. And Fiona does all of those things so beautifully. We really wanted to find a singer that could sing this very strange melody that I wrote, but also give it that sense of Sauron's personality. And I'm really hopeful that fans will love it and also feel that it does what I want it to do, which is end the season in a very special way. Thank you so much for joining us this season on Deadline's Inside the Ring.
And remember, Prime Video's The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, will be back with a second season. See you then.
Whoa, oh my god! I see the
See you later.
We have to try everything right.
Drink.
I'll be
Hello.
keeping this for later.
I don't care about the show. I just want a good blooper reel.
I want to learn science.
You guys are going to make me look like I'm in the show, right? You're going to put in the effects. Replace the green. I don't want to look like an asshole here.
Sorry.